This year in forensics, one of our topics was to dissect a fetus pig. We placed the pig on the tray and used this to cut it open. We cut out the heart, the lungs, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, and the hardest part was to go into the skull and try and take it out with these. Here's an example of the livers, heart, intestines, and here's also the brains we took out from the fetus pigs.
Now it's super saturated.
This year in forensics we did a blood dropping lab where we took the red paint and dropped it on a piece of paper, and depending on where we dropped it, we could tell the width and diameter of it. We dropped it from a smaller height. It had a lot less diameter and width compared to from a larger height.
So your numbers are all really close. These are the only two of those.
We could also tell the angle of it when we dropped it
It's hard to get it.
from like 20
There's a whole
degrees.
bunch of things can go wrong. Pressure squeeze in the bottle.
Wait, what was our other movie? What was our other?
You can tell where it is compared to like 70.
Blood splatter and the fingerprints, right? Did I get my Yeah.
So, and you and Araceli are set to go. She's busy, editing.
This year in forensics we learned how to use fingerprints for evidence. We would use the fingerprint pad and place one of our fingers down on it. And you can place it on a piece of paper and you can tell what kind of fingerprint you have. You can tell by the way that they're forming together that they're arches, and you can get a better view of it by placing a magnifying glass on it. Another way to determine fingerprints is using a cup and tape. You would grab oil from the top of your head, place it on the cup, then you would grab this little pen thingy, place it here, grab some of this Gentic, place it where the fingerprint was. Then you would open this tape, place it on the fingerprint. After you're done with that, you would place the fingerprint here. As you can see, I have whorls on my thumb. That's how you can determine what fingerprint you have. In forensics, another topic we learned was the study of bones. This right here is a pelvis. In the pelvis, you could determine whether it's a female or male based on how narrow or how wide it is. Female tend to have a much wider pelvis than male do. This right here is a male, but you could tell by how narrow it is. This is the femur, and you can tell the height of a person based on the length of it. It is located in the upper part of the leg. This is a broken tibia, which is in the lower part of the leg, and you can tell like how they were injured based on how it was broken. These are two parts of the spinal cord, and each of them is very specific to how they're connected because they get smaller as you go up. And this is the rib cage, which protects the lungs and heart and is matched in pairs. In forensics, another topic we learned was the study of a skull. This, you can determine whether it was a middle class, high class, or a lower class. This person was obviously a lower class based on how the teeth look. Also, you could determine if it was a male or female based on how wide or how narrow the jaw was. This is a female because it's a narrow jaw. You could also determine the race based on the skull. Over here the nose is pushed up, so you can tell that it has more of a Caucasoid type skull. And also with the actual size of it in the back, you could tell that it's a Caucasoid because it's a lot smaller, and like a Mongoloid has a lot larger of a skull in the back. In forensics this year we also looked at soil. You can tell that there's differences between these three based on a lot of things like smell. This smells like burnt wood. This smells like rubber. And this also smells like burnt wood. there's a lot of little things in it, like rocks and other like pieces of wood that you can just tell that make up each part of it, and you can use it for forensic evidence if you find any like traces for any like types of criminal thing. And there's also a different way of examining it. You can use a special glowing light, which can highlight anything important that's within the soil. This year in forensics, we did a unit on hairs. Hairs are important in forensic evidence because they come up a lot and they help track down and like figure out crime and stuff. So here is a hair under a microscope zoomed in. The outer part is called the cuticle, and it makes up the outer layer. And then when you go in more on the layers, you find the cortex, and there's a lot of like little black dots that represent like the blank like layer like in between it. And then in the very middle part is called the medulla. Medullas are the most like a very key part because based on how big it is, like if it's less than 1/3, you can tell that it's a human hair, but if it's more than 1/2, you can tell that it's an animal hair. And here you can tell that it's a human hair because it's less than 1/2, which helps you track that. And then here is like a human hair diagram when it's like not under the microscope. You can see that these hairs are right above the scalp, and like there's a lot of stuff that like goes without saying that's not under the microscope that you wouldn't be able to find if you just pulled it out. In forensics, okay, my bad.